Good morning. Welcome to my thought for the day. Sorry about the noise of the traffic, but I've got the windows open. It's very hot already and it's so early in the morning. We are continuing in Luke 19, and things are hotting up for Jesus. The authorities are getting more and more irritated by his behaviour. When he was up in the north, doing marvellous things around the Sea of Galilee and even in Samaria, they were not really too troubled by it. But when he came to Jerusalem, he was, as we would say now, he was in your face all the time, in their face all the time. Yeah, they couldn't ignore him. And so we have to think about all the things we're going to look at up until the betrayal, seeing that the focus on doing something about Jesus was beginning to develop as a cohesive intention, and they tried every way that they could to discredit him in the face of the people, and they weren't able to do it. So we talked about the incident of Jesus cleansing the temple in verses 45 and 46 of chapter 19. And at the end of that chapter it says, "And Jesus was teaching daily in the temple. The chief priests, the scribes, and the principal men of the people sought to destroy him, but they did not find anything they could do, for all the people hung upon his words." So there was a lot of pro-Jesus activity that week. Whenever he taught, people just were rapt with, I can't imagine what it can have been like for people to listen to Jesus. It was a wonderful experience for all of them, and his opponents couldn't do anything. So chapter 20 opens with him teaching in the temple, and they'd come up with a question to ask him to try and discredit him. And the question that they came up with is, "Tell us by what authority you do these things, or who it is who gave you this authority. It hasn't come from us. You're not one of us. You're not an authorized teacher in our faith. Who gave you the right to talk and speak like this?" That's what they were asking. And it's interesting to me that Jesus did not answer that question. He didn't answer that question. He asked them a different question. And this strategy is a very useful one sometimes when people ask us questions about our faith that we know if we give a direct answer to it, they won't understand. Sometimes it's better not to even attempt to answer the question that's come to us, but rather to pose a different question that is similar but different, and so that your conversation moves forward with the person rather than stops at a dead end where you know they simply won't be able to understand, because there are many things in the Christian life. Paul talks about this in Corinthians, that can only be spiritually discerned, and if the person you're talking to is not born again, they're not going to be able to understand what you're talking about. So sometimes it's wise to actually slightly move and Jesus did move the question, ask them a similar question, which if they answered in a particular way, you'd know they were ready to hear more. And Jesus asked them, "Was the baptism of John from heaven or from men?" That's a simple question. Which was it? Was he a madman baptizing on the River Jordan, or did God send him? That's a difficult question for someone who's trying to discredit Jesus, because John pointed to Jesus as Messiah. And all the people honoured John. There'd never been, apart from Herod, who was challenged over his lifestyle, none of the ordinary people, even the teachers of the law, did not try and destroy John, because John didn't claim to be God. And so they talked about it. How do we answer him? If we say from heaven, he'll say, well, why didn't you repent and get baptized as others did? Because the leaders did not. Why didn't you believe him? If we say from men, then the people will stone us, because they knew that that John was a prophet. So they answered they didn't know where the authority came for John. Where did his baptism come from? Did it come from heaven or from men? They didn't answer. They said, we don't know. And Jesus said, neither will I tell you by what authority I do these things. Now, there were times in his ministry when he was quite clear about where his authority came from, when he answered them straight. Earlier on in his ministry, he'd answer them straight, and he'd said, I'm from my father, and you are of your father, the devil. But at this point, he doesn't answer them. So sometimes it's right to give a direct answer, and sometimes it's not. I think it's fascinating that Jesus dealt with them like this. Ask a similar question and see what answer you get. Because people who are genuinely seeking God will give different answers to people who are trying to trip you up and who are trying to destroy your faith. Jesus was very wise in the words that he said. And these leaders were very wily in what they tried to do to Jesus. They tried to discredit him in the temple, in front of everybody. They asked him this question, not privately, like Nicodemus asked him privately. They said, I don't understand what you're teaching. They didn't really want to know. They just wanted to destroy him. They wanted to discredit him. But it's a question we should ask. Where did Jesus' authority come from? Was it from God? If you've never acknowledged Jesus as Lord, perhaps you've never thought about it. Do you think the teachings that Jesus gave was directly given to him by God? If it was, why haven't you responded? And if it wasn't, why do you bother with it at all? Or as many a great teacher has said, if Jesus really was from God, then believe in him. If he wasn't, he must have been a madman, and everything he said must have been a lie. And most people will not throw out his teaching. They just throw out who he claimed to be. But you can't divide his teaching from who he claimed to be. And those leaders couldn't do it either. He is Jesus, God's Son, given to us. And we need to come to him and acknowledge it. That's my thought for the day. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.